Greetings, everybody! Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is, of course, March 27th, 2021. This is episode number 177? Is that correct?
I don't know what's
Let's
correct.
just assume it is.
No, it's not. It should be 178. Damn it.
Well,
Rip.
rip.
I switched on the live thing. I just have to remember it's gonna switch back to that in the video producer. I'm gonna have to change it there and just remember to do that. I forget a lot of things. Anyway, joining me once again are my special guest hosts that we've been having lately, Lightning and Momo.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm like 40% here.
Oh, you are slightly less here than I am.
It's a brain fog day.
Yeah.
Too much chaotic one shot and then night siege equals no sleep.
Yeah.
I surprisingly
yeah,
got more sleep than my last couple of days, so I don't know.
You've had some exciting couple of games here, I hear, Momo.
Yeah, I have 3 hours of combat of playing 2 spellcasters on Thursday and then a chaos one shot.
Yeah, that's probably better than 3 hours of fish and nets, though, right?
I don't know. I wasn't the one getting netted.
Who doesn't love being in a net or playing 3 characters at the same time?
Oh god.
I enjoyed Joe being in a net as much as you was.
It was very funny.
It was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there's some stuff we're gonna talk about. I don't know what the stuff is. It's stuff.
Though I know you two aren't going to be as good as it, I do want to talk a little bit about Strixhaven, the new Magic set's mechanics, because they got one interesting mechanic. I got to be honest. I was going to say they have some interesting mechanics. They got their standard Magic the Gathering. This is a new thing that's like an old thing mechanics a couple of times, and they got one mechanic that really stands out. The rest of them are standard box. I'm going to talk about. There is Judge Dredd RPG books that are out. 2 of them.
Oh no!
I forgot that was a thing. Honestly speaking,
I have never
Alright.
forgotten.
Modiphies is launching a new what they call sci-fi solo adventure, 5 Parsecs from Home. I want to talk a little bit about that because that's kind of an interesting idea. The 20th anniversary of Carcassonne is going on. Good for you, Carcassonne. I like that game. And just because I do technically have it as a Kickstarter and a thing, Onyx Path is doing Adventure, which is the 3rd in the Trinity series. Trinity Continuum, as they've been calling it, for their new edition. And then for deeper discussion, we're going to talk a little bit about 4th edition.
Oh
4th edition D&D. What's wrong and what's right with 4th edition? Since we've hinted on that previously, I thought we'd go more a little in depth on that one. I had a couple other similar topics of like things to go in depth about that we brought up and other stuff, but I'm like, let's do 4th edition today.
This is a great one to have me on for because I have played 4th edition one time 5 years ago.
I never played 4th edition, so
It's
enjoy
an
that.
experience, and then talking about like the mechanics, you can get opinions for someone that's like looking on it from the outside. I feel like that's what Lightning is, and I know that Momo had some experience. That's why I figured it was an okay group to talk about it. Let's start though with the Magic. So Strixhaven, that's the new set. It's people compared it to Magic the Gathering's Harry Potter, but like the more people look at it, they're like, okay, it is a wizarding school, but they're not doing a lot of like the Harry Potter tropes, and they're doing their own thing with it. So good on them. It's gonna have its comparisons as being a wizard school. Not gonna get around that. That's a definite thing. So I wanted to talk about mechanics because they've got a returning one, double face cards. People like those. They're kind of neat. The current version of them is you choose whether you cast it on one side or the other. Options. That's kind of neat. They have the abilities Ward and Magecraft, which I'm going to just go quickly over them. They're basically abilities that have existed in previous versions. Granted, these are a little different. Magecraft is when you cast an instant or sorcery, something gets a bonus. That's standard box kind of thing. Ward is to target this thing, you have to pay a little extra mana. There have been stuff like that before. The weirdest thing... Yeah, what?
It's like a blue deck thing, you know?
Yeah, it's been blue and white as a kind of ability, because I think both of them have had that in the past, that like you have to pay something to target something or to affect something.
Oh boy, continuing the trend of making me never want to play against someone who has a blue deck.
I'm playing with blue deck. All right, I can see.
I see you don't like fun.
Look, I like fun. That's why I have my bounce discard blue-black deck, who'd also turned into a mill deck at some point in time. It's just meant to be fun for me. That's that deck. The fun for me deck. No, I have to admit, like all my jerkiest of decks have blue in them. Most of them.
I have a blue deck that's way out of like legal, I suppose, because probably a bunch of the cards play ban that. I'd have to look at it, but if I remember right, it was just like a big fuck you. You're not allowed to have cards kind of deck.
Yeah, I can say my blue-black, my blue-red, my straight blue. My blue-white's a little jerky, but not too bad because it's a wizard deck. So it's a wizard did it. That's not as bad. Blue-red's control steal everything. Blue-green is just weird. So blue-green might be the least jerky one because it's just weird. It's just... Yeah. Anyway. So a lot of these abilities, standard bog down. They added something called Learn, which is an interesting ability. So your choices are, when you cast a spell with Learn, first of all, do nothing. You don't have to use the Learn ability. Okay, great. Second, you can discard a card from your hand and draw a card. Okay, that might be helpful. You get rid of something that you don't need in your hand, or you will never be able to use and replace it with a card. That might be able to help you. Okay. The third thing is, you can reveal a lesson card from outside the game and put it into your hand. And they added in lesson cards.
That sounds really strong.
Well, in tournament circuits, outside the game usually means your sideboard. And your sideboard does have a limited size. Like, I can't remember the current one, but I remember there was a time when it was like 14 cards. So, I mean, that's a selection still. But it means that I could have 14 cards in that would answer to a problem I'm having right now. In casual, that means from your collection. Now, granted, they've just introduced the lesson-type card in this set. But from what I've seen, all the ones I've seen are... Oh, wait, colorless, meaning you can use them in any deck. So, it does sound pretty powerful. I don't know about this feature. Like, outside the game stuff has always been a mixed bag, I kind of have to say, of how it works. I think limiting it to one type of card helps. But... I am, like, as I've described, and you're, like, saying, that sounds really powerful. I'm like, yeah, I'm suspicious of it.
I guess it would really depend on the options you have available to you.
Yeah.
I mean, because, I'm going to compare this to D&D because that's easy for my brain right now.
Sure.
You look at, use 5th edition because that's even easier. If you look at the feats in 5e, there are some feats that are like, wow, this is really strong. And there's other ones like, you can cook things and get temporary hit points. And I'm like, that's neat, but it's not very strong, like, mechanically. So, if it falls into the brain not working all of a sudden...
Yeah.
If it falls into something that's not, like, super deadly powerful or whatever, then I'd be like, I could see it being fine.
Yeah. So far, they've only revealed 4 lesson cards. Again, all colorless, meaning you can put them in any deck. You can use them in any deck. One of them searches for land and gives you life. Okay. The thing is, it's 2 mana, so it's pretty cheap. Pretty interesting one there. One boost is good for defensive. It boosts a creature and gives it that it doesn't tap to attack. So you can attack with it, make it bigger, and have it there for defense. One of them gets rid of a card from play. Another one allows you to draw a card. Then also look at the top of your deck before you do. So you have a choice to rearrange the order, or get rid of something. I mean, all those are pretty decent abilities. Granted, like, I gotta say, like, all of them feel like they should be a certain color. I'm gonna be honest about that.
To make them more limited?
Yeah. Making them colorless means that, like, let's give the example, the one where you look at the cards at the top of your deck and draw a card. That is specifically like a blue ability. I could have a black deck, which I could do that into. I could have a green deck, which I'm doing that on. It increases the power of that pretty heavily. Granted, I'm not sure, like, oh no, I can find that there is a green spell that has Learn right here that they've already shown off. So, hey, there you go. You have its effect that it gives, which is, you know, normal kind of green effect, and oh hey, now I added this entire other effect that my deck would normally have. The other thing about this is you do not reveal the lesson card that you put into your hand. Oh no, it does say you may reveal a lesson card. So you do reveal it. Okay, sorry. I for a second thought it wasn't reveal. I was misreading that. So it means someone knows what you're putting in your hand, but just because you know it's there doesn't mean you have a good counter for it. You know?
Yeah, because you have random draw.
I feel like this is an effect that might trickle into a lot of different formats, is the other thing about it. Like, it might become important in a lot of other formats. It might be very powerful for sideboard searching in tournaments. I gotta be honest, that's something it might do. It might make it that, like, a lot of decks in these big-name tournaments are gonna have sideboards filled with this stuff so that they can quickly pull out for those emergency situations. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the drawing to go to the sideboard stuff, if that is colorless as well, that means there's no reason why you can't have it in every single deck you ever make, forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I know enough about Magic to know that when you're explaining things, I can kind of have an understanding of how it works. But I've never, like, sat down and played, so I only know, like, super, super, super basic stuff.
I mean, that's fine. Like, the concept in a card game of having, I can pick something from outside the game, automatically has connotations, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's certain things about these learn spells and stuff that have problems, especially if you're playing casually, where you can use your entire collection. Certain things, like, there are abilities that allow you to get cards back that you've already used. Okay, I might be able to use this one card that has Learn a lot and get a whole bunch of things from outside the game. Like, other things, a good comparison, I think, to say was, there used to be cards called the Wish Spells that allowed you to get a card from outside the game. Now, similar to how they have it now for tournaments, they define outside the game as sideboard for tournaments, your collection otherwise. The Wish Spells, you removed it from the game once you cast it. You get it once. There's no way to get it back.
As opposed to just being, like, something you can just shuffle back in.
Yeah, this thing, I could do something to shuffle it back in. I could... Granted, on its own, it doesn't do that. I'd have to, like, you know, combo with something, but oh no, I've comboed it with something that I can shuffle it back in and learn some more.
Yeah. Because it's Magic. There's ways to do crazy shenanigans.
Oh my god, yes. Like, crazy shenanigans has been one of those things that I think is fun in a lot of formats. It's not... Crazy shenanigans are probably not going to win a tournament. I'm going to give you that there. But you'll find people that...
you're relying on luck.
Yeah. You'll find people that'll have those weird decks that you might play in, like, more casual formats, and they might just be really freaking weird. Okay. Oh, hey. I found a colored lesson. I just noticed it.
Oh, fancy.
It is in amongst their multicolored. So you either have to... to not confuse everybody, you can either use green or black mana for it. So they are putting some other ones in there. Got you.
Okay. That could be less bad then.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen them do any straight colored lessons. but still. Oh no. Hey. Now that I'm looking, I noticed that they have a symbol in their top corner. And I did find that they do have a straight black one. Okay. So, I mean, that gives me more hope now that I found those. That they're not just the colorless ones that they threw out in front of us.
Yeah, because that could be bad.
The colorless ones still make me very upset, though, I have to say. As a person who plays it. Anyway. I don't know. Let's move on. I don't want to dwell too much on this, because this is something that, like, even Joe, unfortunately, because he's not as up-to-date with a lot of Magic things, couldn't get into as much. So, it's interesting. Something for fans of Magic out there to keep an eye out. Let's talk about Judge Dredd. Because it's new books for the Judge Dredd RPG. Strontium Dog and Rogue Trooper. So, they are published by Modifius.
Oh, we're gonna lose our other co-host here in a minute.
Uh-oh. Do we lose a Momo? Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's some tech problems going on here.
I missed that. Well, let's leave us weird Cameron for now.
Yeah, totally, it's fine. Oh,
I accidentally minimized Discord.
kind of fixed it for a second.
Hey, look, I'm like fine down here in the bottom, but like the top of my head is frozen, really weirdly.
That's strange.
That is very strange. Wait, did I fix my forehead? They've moved my forehead slightly over to the side, like by like a foot.
Oh, there we go. Maybe. So weird.
This is very weird. Wait, I'll fix you, even though you're just an image. There you go.
Yay. I'm just an image. I mean, if Discord allowed it, I'd actually put like a static picture of like me in a hoodie or something. So it's just me being like Emperor Palpatine or whatever. Like good.
So this is Judge Dredd in the worlds of 2000 AD.
I mean, I liked the movies.
I gotta be honest, this first one here, as I read up on it, is Strontium Dog. It's so far away, because this is Voyage to the Far Future in this versatile tabletop game of science fiction. And then it's a step in the future and join Johnny Alpha as he blazes a trail across the stars in pursuit of the galaxy's worst criminals. Operating from a space station known as the Dog House, with his fellow mutant bounty hunters.
I mean, that doesn't sound much like Judge Dredd to me.
Unless they're like connected spin-offs or something like that we don't know about.
That is very likely.
I feel like because they call it Judge Dredd in the worlds of 2000, I feel like what it is, this is like
expanded universe,
and that's what these are. Because the other one, Rogue Trooper, it says, in Rogue Trooper's universe, battle for New Earth dominates everything. The Great Nordlands Republic and the Southern Confederacy and a wageless war for control of a poisoned planet.
That sounds more Judge Dreddy.
That does sound more Judge Dreddy. That, like, I feel like that's a little bit more directly connected, because Judge Dreddy, it's just around, like, that giant mega city, you know? That seems to be the only thing left in the world. This could be that kind of like the war before then that led to Judge Dredd.
Maybe. Unfortunately, I just don't know enough about the world to say much. Yes. I liked the movies.
I think both movies have merit. Like, I feel like the Sylvester Stallone one is a little bit more campy, but it was an enjoyable kind of campy. I will always love Sly going, "I am Delawa."
But apparently it was also a comic book series.
Yes.
Before that.
Series.
Oh, welcome back.
Oh, I may be
back.
okay now. Every once in a while, my computer just decides I'm not going to recognize any internet connections, but then I'm going to recognize them, and then it's just going to keep flipping between that, and it's always a fun time.
Fun.
My computer's hot garbage. But it seems better now, hopefully.
Let's hope so.
Judge Dredd. That's a thing.
It was a comic book series, I think, before it was a TV or movie.
So, what we were saying is, like, the original Judge Dredd book, which was Judge Dredd in the Worlds of 2000 AD, was just about the the city of 800. Really, it was 800 million people.
Yeah,
Fuck.
Mega City 1 or something.
That's
It's like the entirety of like the east coast of the U.S.
Yeah. I forgot it was in
population of New York.
I thought it was. I forgot it was that insane. Like,
yeah, it's like the entire east coast.
the thing about these two expansions we were saying is it looks like they're taking on that actual literal like worlds, and they are Judge Dredd style and maybe related in the comics, but they are very different. Like,
Yeah.
Strontium Dog has you join Johnny Alpha and his mutants as they bounty hunt across space. And Rogue Trooper is your like genetic infantryman or a couple other groups that are fighting in like a great war on New Earth.
Oh, New Earth.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's so much
It's
better than
NU.
old
It's
Earth.
like it's New Earth NU. It's new.
I mean, there are like other big mega cities, so like it's not just the one. So it could be maybe said like before they all had to go into the dumb giant cities, I guess.
And
Well, isn't the logic of the world is like mega polluted or something?
Yeah,
and
the
that's...
world is completely fucked. So everyone had to be like moved into the. I think at least a long time since I've seen the movies.
yeah.
But like yeah, they all have to live in
Yeah.
these colossal cities. So
I
I
think-
don't know where that's gonna come into play, but sure.
Because the original book had that being in the mega city, you know? And it's interesting to see that, like, maybe Rogue Trooper is set before the mega cities. Maybe, Strontium Dog is set in... It could be set in the same universe. And it could be
Yeah.
that, because that's, like, in a space station. Maybe mega cities like what's left on Earth, and maybe some people fled to the stars. You know?
Which would make sense.
Maybe.
After the war. And maybe that's where the mutants that fled there, you know, existed. I mean, they call them mutants, so I assume, like, everybody's supposed to be human. I don't know. I'm gonna look up
I
this
wonder
Johnny
if mutant
Alpha
is just their way of making it so there's like different races or something.
Maybe. I don't know too much about Judge Dredd other than like the comic gets real weird. Because there's like also vampires in it and time
Nice.
travel.
Oh no! It'd never go full time travel.
Okay, so Strontium Dog was one of the comics in 2000 AD, which is where Judge Dredd was part of it. So it was like, for you anime nerds out there, it's Shonen Jump, but for British sci-fi. Because Rogue Trooper's also in there. Other 20,000 AD, Rogue Troopers, Slain, Strontium Dog, ABC Warriors, Nemesis the Warlock, Nicole Dante, and then
So
Judge
it's
Dredd.
like expanded universe kind of thing.
Yeah, because like it seems as though that they were all published in the same comic group originally, you know, or magazine. And someone's motorcycling outside me.
Yeah.
Well, it's less
Right.
humorous when it's not in a D&D game when you're describing something.
Also, there's a motorcycle that goes up for us. It's like, yes, although their overall shared universe is contained in it, there are some spin-off crossovers, many with Judge Dredd. There you go. So it's sort of like they're technically connected, but you can pretend they are connected, because it does look like there was a crossover with both Rogue Trooper and Strontium Dog. So, I think that's an interesting thing to do. I gotta be honest, like, I knew about Judge Dredd. I knew it was a comic. I think I may have at one point heard that it was in, like, a book that it wasn't the only comic. I wouldn't have known anything about the other ones.
Yeah, I don't know anything aside from the movies and a few weird things from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I only know the movies and that it was a comic, and that it was like a really brutal one.
Yeah.
I think it
I'm
was
pretty
like
sure, like in the comics, they send a nuke back in time at one point. I think that's the thing that happens.
I mean, look, I just feel like Judge Dredd is like a very dark and gritty comic set, like, you know, it's an apocalyptic future with like a like basically the judge, jury, and executioner is everybody that's a cop.
Yeah, he just shouts, "I am the law" all the time.
They're like it's Punisher is all of them. Well, no, you have to say like it's "I am the law."
Yeah.
For my bad Sly Stallone accent.
That's just real bad.
Yeah, that was.
Just never do that again.
You're welcome. I probably will.
Oh, rip.
And then the other one, I hear good things about. I have not been able. Did I sit down and watch it? I can't remember.
I actually liked the more recent Judge Dredd movie.
It
was really good.
I think it's better personally.
I think I saw the first part of it, and then I had to stop, and it was before I had the DVR because that was 2012.
Yeah, it's a bit old at this point.
So I think I was looking for it a few times to be on somewhere now that I've had the DVR, but I keep missing it. So yeah, one of these days.
I know people were mad that it wasn't as funny or satirical as the original.
But I think
that's one thing I remember. That's kind of that's what you get in the 2010s when they remade old movies. You took the satire out and you just made them real serious.
But I mean,
I think that was kind of the point, though, is they wanted a more serious version.
Yeah, I think it worked.
It was closer to the actual comic, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was much more dark and gritty.
Yeah.
That was 95 for Judge Dredd? I could have sworn it would have been the 80s.
No,
I mean, 90s. It had the 80s vibe.
Well, the 90s was just trying, depending on what era of the 90s, it was just trying to copy the 80s.
That's true. Yeah, 90s did a lot of attempted. I mean, the most quintessential 80s movie was made in 92.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Was it Showdown in Little Tokyo?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
With Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee, before he died on The Crow. As Dolph Lundgren doing his best of being like, I am the guy that knows the way of Asia. And Brandon Lee pretending to be partially Japanese when he's Chinese. Because typecasting.
That's fine, probably.
Let me say, it's quintessential 80s because it has random nudity, just like the 80s would, over-the-top action, explosions, and car chases, like a samurai ninja movie.
I mean, that sounds like the best movie ever. You're just describing the best movie.
That's why I said it's the quintessential 80s movie. If you like a good 80s action movie, this will be for you. Anyway, but enough distraction on that one. I have nothing against Judge Dredd. Again, the movies, they're both good from what I remember. I definitely enjoyed the Sylvester Stallone one for its, satire. The parts I watched of the second one, good. Gotta finish it someday.
It's good. I liked it.
Yeah.
Bringing the other worlds in that people probably don't know as much about. I mean...
Yeah, to a casual person, be like, what is this? But, to someone who's a big Judge Dredd fan, they would know about that stuff,
I feel like, for a role player, what this does is it brings in more, archetypes and stuff for you to play that you can bring into your other worlds and make excuses for.
Yeah.
I
feel like, me personally, if I would play this, I would want to just do, the apartment wars and shit. Just going through the apartment blocks. Yeah, that's a thing in Judge Dredd, the block wars.
Yeah.
I think I just want to do that. Instead of other planets and shit. Or other worlds.
The original Judge Dredd had rules for humans, clones, robots, mutants, and uplifted apes. I forgot about the apes.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. And you could play as Judge, Perps, or Citizens. They introduced bounty hunters and outlaws for Strontium Dog, which I gotta be honest, that might make a little bit of a difference because that you could use to explore the wasteland too, outside the city. I could have adventures outside that and kind of introduce stuff like that. And the same for the GI or Merc, stuff for Rogue Trooper. It's some of them might not work as better as others when it comes to translating them, but it's that same kind of thing of I have all this stuff, I can share it between the settings because it's the same setting.
Yeah, if it's balanced with itself.
Yeah. More options is usually a decent thing.
Unless it's Pathfinder.
Well, there are selling points on both of those as they tie seamlessly into the Judge Dredd and Worlds of 2000 AD range of RPG books, meaning yes.
There you go.
So, make your worlds weirder, include some stuff that seems neat, and if you feel like it neat, or if you know about these comic series, which honestly, I didn't know they were comic series until this entire day here, go ahead and look into them. Strontium Dog and Judge Dredd, or Rogue Trooper. I wonder how many they're planning on doing. This is like, Modiphius does weird things. So this is going to be a sidetrack on Modiphius as a company, just for a second, because we're going to talk about something else Modiphius is doing in a second.
Oh, boy.
Fucking the Conan series. Conan has way too many goddamn jobs.
Yeah.
It's always Conan the pirate, Conan the diplomat, Conan the scout, Conan the outlaw. I'm like, fuck you, Conan. Get a real job.
No, Conan needs all the jobs in this economy.
Stick with Barbarian. Barbarian is good enough. It pays the bills. You raid a couple of towns.
Barbarian is no longer good enough. That's just how.
Why do you think he doesn't have a shirt on all the time? He can't afford one. That's why he's got to get other jobs. Oh my god. Modiphius. I don't understand your releases sometimes. This is for the very reason.
This is fine.
I don't know.
Everything is fine here.
Probably. So, yeah. They're also releasing 5 Parsecs from Home, what they call a solo adventure game, which is kind of interesting. I think I've talked in the past with Joe a few times about solo tabletop experiences, because they fall into, like, I think a couple of categories. There's the incredibly simple, like something like Solitaire. You can play it with yourself very easily. It's going to be different every time. It's there. You know, how many people play Solitaire on their computer sometimes? I mean, I play other things, but I know my dad played a shit ton of Solitaire.
In the past, I have played Solitaire on my computer.
I played a lot of Minesweeper back in the day.
Instead of listening to my university lectures, I would just get bored and probably play Solitaire.
But Minesweeper's back in the day of our first computer.
I do have this deck of cards here sitting on the desk. But I'm using them for a different, totally not cursed thing.
I can't wait to play Solitaire.
The thing about this one is, which is very interesting, is it's supposed to be a unique genre of tabletop war game, like in the vein of their Elder Scrolls game and their Fallout Wasteland Warfare, except solo.
Which is fine.
It's fine, but it's kind of like, yeah.
Man,
So sorry.
I don't think I would get enjoyment from playing it, because I prefer people in my tabletop experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But there's people who like this kind of stuff, so.
I feel like
there's a system, I can't remember what it's called. It's a very, like, dark and gritty. I keep thinking World of Apocalypse, but that's not what it is. The intro battle is you fight a lion, and none of your characters have, like, equipment or clothing, and some of the weapons you have are rocks. I don't remember what it's called. I have a friend who has played it before, and it's a game that's designed that you can play it by yourself or with up to 4 people, and you don't need, like, a DM or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically it's kind of like a card game. So you have actions you can do that are part of, like, a deck of cards, right? So it's like, here's the creature actions, and then, like, here's player actions and stuff. So the DM, as I emote that you can't see, I'm doing air quotes. The DM's job is basically you draw a card, and the card tells you this is what the creature's going to do, and then you decide how the creature's going to do it. So everyone is kind of playing the role of DM. It's just you're taking turns doing it. So in that regard, you can be a player and a DM at the same time, because the game is kind of built for that. But you can also play with multiple people, and there's also like a housing kind of kingdom builder side to it, where you have to basically propagate the species so that you can continue to live in this, like, apocalypse world. And I've seen people play it. It's interesting. So I don't think there isn't a market for that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like Momo was saying, some people want to play with others because that's kind of their preference, right?
I feel like the simple games rather than the complex ones, if I'm going to play by myself for a game, I feel like the simple ones are the ones I would aim for. Yeah. You can play Arkham Horror with one player. Yeah. I would never fucking do that. Are you kidding me?
I played that XCOM board game that came out God knows how long ago at this point by myself. It was really boring. I was just very bored.
Mm-hmm. And it might be fun with people, but on your own?
Also, like, it involves the use of a phone because you have to download an app that I don't know if exists anymore.
Oh boy.
Just not rules to how to play the aliens in that.
No, that's
just silly.
Like 5 Parsecs for home. It's you're building a crew of humans, robots, and aliens to take to the stars in a science fiction adventure war game. It's got procedurally generated battles, having players finish jobs while encountering the strangest things the galaxy has to offer. Okay. I'll take it that maybe like you got random setups for battles and stuff you play against, but again, it's a little different because if I was playing this on as like a video game on the computer would control everything. It would randomly set up the things. It would have behaviors for each of the things I'm fighting.
It just makes the computer makes it easier.
It makes that's not so simple because I feel like it's like the simple mechanics that they have for one of the D&D board games. Like the monsters have like, here are the 3 actions they do depending on how far away your players are from them. And it's like, okay, neat. There's still a lot of interpretation that, like, I'm sorry, when I'm playing that game, if I'm controlling a monster, I will put it in the most strategic spot when I listen to those commands for me as a player, which is not great for it as a monster as fighting me.
Well, you know, monsters are sometimes dumb.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
Just think about the crab.
Was just really stupid, and came in sorting range.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wanted to touch you with his bad touch hands.
Mm-hmm.
Not again.
Not again! As you like paralyzed, you fall over just in like that like one shape. You can't move your muscles. You're just like you got your arms up like crap.
Yeah, exactly. See, I mean, just because it's more beneficial.
Everything guy. Yeah. Well, that's the what is it like the thought only spells or something that you could be like, yeah, you.
Because you can't verbal or somatic or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of agree. Just making it that it's solo only means that it has to go on those. It has to rely on those mechanics heavily of how to play it out and how things would behave on just a few cards or random generated stuff. And I just feel like it's kind of hard to say this will be great. I don't mind solo stuff. There's definitely people that love it. It discourages me, I guess, is the best word.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, like, I think for me it would be better if the solo was an option. Like, you could play it solo, but there's rules here for how to do it with more than one person.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Like a lot of board games that say, this is our preferred number, but here's some rules for playing it with these other numbers. Like, instead of it being that, like, oh, Arkham Horror, we recommend this number of people, but you could play it one player, wink wink, and we're like, no, Arkham Horror, I'm not going to play this alone. Why are you telling me this? Come on now, you know you want to.
Suffer.
This would be like, well, we're really made for one player, but you could play it with multiple players. I'm sorry, we're going to punish you with these little rules here that make it more difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not really my cup of tea.
I agree. it's interesting that they're putting it out. Like, it kind of harkens me back to the fact that they did... Their Wasteland Warfare series that they did for Fallout has evolved in such a weird way, because they started with the basic fighting game. They made like a fighting game RPG hybrid, or war game, and now they're doing a full RPG of Fallout. They should... I mean, like, did they just want to do the RPG to begin with, and they've slowly, like, moved up to there? Is that it?
Or... I mean, that's likely.
Mm-hmm.
Testing the waters to see how much of a market there is, and then build up to the full-scale thing.
Yeah. Carcassonne? Let's talk about Carcassonne. Have you ever played Carcassonne?
What's that?
No, I have not.
That's a shame, because Carcassonne is a classic German style.
Google search?
Yeah. Carcassonne is one of the games that came out in the time of Settlers of Catan. I'm going to say that first.
Oh.
So it's one of the classic European-style board games. This one in particular here was the original tile-lay game, I would call it. The idea is that you would put down tiles. You have your... I don't know if they called... This is where the little meeple characters. This is like the first generation of them almost, maybe.
Would you like to hear an interesting factoid?
Sure.
You can buy it at Amazon.com, no hashtag not sponsored, for $66.99.
It probably contains a lot of the expansions.
Yeah, because there's other ones here that are cheaper. Here's one that, like, someone has made a tile set. It's $110. I don't know how big it is, but that's a lot of stuff.
They have so many tile sets and so many expansions they put out over the years. 20 years of expansions are a lot.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? If I go back, it was 2001. Yeah, this is 20 years.
Some of them were great. Like, I enjoyed things like the Princess and the Dragon expansion. It added a little princess token and a dragon token that murders stuff. But they also added, like, weird... What was the weirdest one? The catapult. Because it's
Can
like...
it be a princess dragon?
Maybe. The catapult, because it was a dexterity game, because it had this, like, little wooden thing that was like a wooden V that you could, like, twing it. Like, you catapult stuff with it. And I'm like, this is... Why did you do this to me, Carcassonne? I didn't know it was like this.
That sounds wonderful and awful.
Yeah, it kind of was. So they did a lot of experimental things. It's been a while since I've played Carcassonne. I gotta say that. I own a bunch of the expansions, and I have a box somewhere around here. I'd have to fish it out, but I'm lazy and not going to do that. Because obvious reasons. So, it looks as though it's a complete base game at very least. I don't know what else they have. They have little art on all the figures for the 20th anniversary game. Let me link this one in chat so it shows off what they're doing.
Link things for chat.
Because the original little, like, meeple characters had no art on them. They were just simple, like, colored characters, and now they have, like, little stuff on it.
Can you be a battle sheep master? Have battle sheep?
Maybe.
Or is sheep armor extra DLC cost? Taking the joke totally seriously. I'm making a Oblivion joke.
Oh, Oblivion.
Horse armor DLC.
Yes. Oh God.
Yeah, because the hills and sheep, and I'm like, sheep, huh? What about battle sheep?
Sure.
So you just pay for the sheep armor DLC.
So it's like fresh coat of paint for all the tiles, 20 brand new tiles, 5 new river tiles, including a double tile. Like tiles have, I think it's like cities, roads, and rivers, and those you have to kind of combine. But then you also have like forests and like open lands, which just can be there kind of thing, you know. So it's an interesting. You build it's like you're building a French countryside designed, and you're making like little fortresses and You know, weird road combinations and river combinations. And the road combinations, you're like, where the fuck does that road go? It loops back on itself. It doesn't go anywhere. And you're like, well, I had to place the tile somewhere.
I feel like the word means something to do with fort, because if you do a Google image search, 90% of the pictures are of castles, and the other 10% are the game.
That probably is the style of fortress.
Oh, and here's a map.
Carcassonne
It's a city.
It's a French fortified
It's a
city.
city in France.
So that's why it's named after that. It's supposed to be like styled on that in that area. Like you have like make fortified cities and stuff, and have like the little map of like the lands around it.
Looks interesting.
20 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. How old is Settlers of Catan now?
I don't want to know.
Probably older. I feel like it's older.
I think it is a little older.
I can't imagine
95.
older than much.
6 years
Yeah.
was after this. Because the thing is, like, Catan, I started hearing about it, like, early 2000s. You know, right around the time that Carcassonne was coming out. So I feel like, you know, that was the time period when the, you know, your German-style board games started coming into the U.S., you know, and people started getting very popular with them. Because I think that was like around the back end of my high school era, where these games started gaining popularity. And the board game revolution began, which hopefully hasn't been killed by a pandemic.
I don't think it has.
Maybe slowed down.
I think it's just been slowed a little.
Yeah. Like, as a board game fan, like, this is a great time for board games, you know? It's like, back in my youth, I would have loved to have shit like this. I had, like, you know, I don't know. I found a couple in my attic, and I've got them over in my room. Let's see here. Marvel Superheroes board game. A version of Clue. The Mad board game.
Yes, Clue, the best board game ever made.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Pizza Power game.
Oh, that's a classic.
I don't know where it is. It's probably falling apart, but somewhere I have Dizzy Dizzy Dinosaur.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, I like board games, but the problem that I've had is I only ever played with family, right? And then, you know, when you're a young person in the video game era, and video games are kind of the thing, it's just kind of where that's my childhood, is mostly video games.
I played more party game style things, like card games and stuff, like Coup and Werewolf, rather than these kind of games.
It wasn't until my high school era that I was introduced to these style games, I gotta be honest. Like, there was a couple of, like, I think because, like, I was very early on in Magic, I could see what you could have for, like, a tabletop game that's different, you know? I enjoyed Magic back in the Unlimited run when I started, like, in 97 or 98, I think it would have been. God. Fucking ages
Only,
ago.
like, German-style board game I've really played a lot is the Ticket to Ride the Train one.
Ticket to Ride's a very good one. Definitely very good.
Do you know of a card game? I believe it's French. It's Miles Borne or something, and it's you are basically you're taking a trip, and you have to go a certain you have to go a certain distance to win, and you can play like hazards, like speed limits, or like stop signs or something, and then you have to counter them with like you know, like green lights or something. And there's also like you can become like a police car or a fire truck, which means like you don't ever have to stop. You become immune to certain effects. I played that a lot when I was a kid. We have that in the house, actually.
God, I did start playing in 93, 94. Oh my God,
and that was an interesting game I really liked, because it was, you know, not a card game. You know, it wasn't a card game. It wasn't Monopoly. So that was cool to have different stuff, but we never really were a big like board game family.
Yeah, I think
I only really played these kind of games in like school and such during like recess or like club meeting time. That's really the only time I really had played these, because I don't have family who play these kind of things. I barely have family who play video games. So,
before Magic, and then leading it like Magic is all I had up until high school, where I started hanging out at the Nerd Club, which was the Simulation Gaming Society, which is AKA Role Playing and Magic Club. And then after school, I would go hang out at people's places for a few hours. That's when I started getting into board games, like actual board games, post Magic. Up until then, like, I have to admit, like, it's what, like, Chinese checkers or chess with people.
yeah.
Occasionally, like, one of the board games I have with my family. That was
I
it.
played chess with my dad. I lost many games. Probably all of them, actually.
Terrible at chess.
I remember being in a chess club in middle school.
Oh, pulling out that nerd card.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
boy.
don't think I was that great.
I can do like one opening, and then that's all I remember how to play at chess.
Mm-hmm. I probably have no good strategies for chess at this point in time. I don't think I had good strategies back in the day, honestly.
I mean, my strategy is if you don't have one, they can't predict your moves.
Exactly.
I can feel that.
So, yep, feeling old. Anyway, let's talk about, I guess, what would be considered today's Kickstarter, just because it is a Kickstarter right now. Adventure. Now, this is one that I'm not as big on. So the Trinity system was technically the Trinium Continuum, as it's called, was adventure.
Link.
What?
Link.
Oh, sorry. I will link to the Kickstarter.
I think I found it.
It's on the Onyx Pack website too.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yes. So again, Trinity was originally published by White Wolf, and it was part of the Trinity universe. The Trinity universe had the original, which was or Trinity's like group. Started with Adventure at the earliest. I mean, I don't know the order of publishing. I got to be honest on that one. But like timeline-wise, Adventure, Aberrant, Trinity. Trinity is the first one they published, which is a kind of super space war where there's like psychics versus mutants in space kind of thing. A little bit of cyberpunk, a little bit of Mad Max, a little bit of like post-apocalyptic, a little bit of space exploration, all winded into one, because there was a great war on Earth that kind of devastated it, you know, and so like you could be on Earth where it sucks, or you could be up in like the star areas where the war is still kind of going on. There you go. Yeah. It focuses on people being more like psionics. There's also aliens, apparently too. Aberrant
Those
goes.
are all things that sound cool, but like when you combine them all at once, it could be a mess. I'd have to.
I've never tried the original, the Trinity version of the game. I gotta be honest. Aberrant is their superhero one, which is a prequel to it, because those mutants that started the war against psychics were the superheroes.
Well, I mean, as you do. I mean, you've read X-Men, right?
Yeah, the entire idea is that, like, as the superheroes gain powers, like, they've got, like, a new organ in their brain, which grows bigger as their superpowers get better, but they also start getting weird mutations, the more powerful you get. So, it was the idea that they kept getting more and more powerful, and therefore became more and more mutated by the thing that made them less and less human. You know, the Novas, as they were called. And also, in the Aberrant Adventure, I think one of the later books introduced the basic rules for being, like, a low-level psychic as they were being established. So it's sort of like, these things that led into the Trinity storyline are here being set up. The third one, Adventure, is the one that fits the least along with this in might. It's effectively Indiana Jones, the RPG.
Yeah, looking at this picture, that's just legally distinct Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's what Adventure was. It's legally distinct Indiana Jones. It's your early 20th century. Some people have extraordinary abilities, so it's assumed to be like people with strange abilities are beginning to be shown in low levels. You're not quite at that level where you're like...
So it's like a prequel.
It's like a prequel. set in the like early 20th century, where you don't have people that are like true superheroes with weird mad powers. You've got like, he's slightly superhuman. He can lift the front of that car just up a little bit.
I mean, not gonna lie, I would actually be down to play some of this system. It looks interesting. I mean, I'm only looking at cover art, which usually is like, good arts. That looks fun.
Yeah.
But like, just like the world seems kind of cool.
The thing is, like, I really like the Aberrant world. I gotta say, that was my favorite. I played a couple of the superhero systems. They're all pretty good. Like, I played Mutants and Masterminds. Aberrant was one of my favorites. One, because I was good at the system, because I don't know, I funded the Kickstarter for the new version of Aberrant, but the book hasn't come out yet. The book is coming out like in a few weeks. That's why they started the new one. They're like, hey, you should be getting the book in a few weeks. I'm getting a PDF. I didn't get a physical book, so I should be getting it sooner. But
that's sweet.
But anyway, regardless, that's superheroes, and I don't know what they use for the system now, but the original system, it was World of Darkness. The same exact system that you used for World of Darkness, the D10 system. If you looked at an original Aberrant character sheet, you'd be like, huh, this looks a lot like a vampire character sheet, or a mage character sheet, or a werewolf character sheet. Except I've got this section, instead of like vampire powers, it's superpowers. You know? But
yeah, but I'm not someone who's so picky, because when you have something that's similar, it makes it easier to like go between different systems.
Oh, yeah.
As someone who's played in a couple different systems, when you have a character sheet that is just so bizarro different, it really messes with your head.
Well, that's why, like, I think Mutants Mastermind's pretty good, because it's a very simple D20 system, you know? Like, both systems are good for merits. I think I just played more of Aberrant, and that's why I liked it more. That's the only reason. Yeah, so, I mean, it's interesting. The adventure one, I like it just because, like, Indiana Jones style adventure RPGs, I don't think there's a lot of them. That, like, turn of the century archaeologists.
You could do it with Call of Cthulhu. It has a timeline for like the 40s and 50s.
Just without the madness.
Yeah, you'd really. I mean, there's stuff that like Josh would know a lot better than this on Funny One.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I just got a message on my phone. Okay, sorry. It's kind of somewhat important, so I was like, I better check this to make sure it's not anything bad. But like, there's revisions to the rules, so you can play like the core Call of Cthulhu, where it's all about like, you know, not going insane or whatever. And there's other versions that like take a little bit away from that, but you could just have it where you just fight regular dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then boom, you know, it's a pretty good setting for just like regular dudes.
Yeah.
I'm just watching this Kickstarter video for adventure, and I'm just gonna like this. Where's my screenshot? This is a thing in the trailer. This picture exists.
Yeah. No, that's in one of the little.
I like that.
Like
arts.
Angel winged people fighting like.
And they're like in armor. I mean, it's cool. I'm down for it.
This is cool.
Well, they like say like the world is altered by strange Telerik energies. Characters may find themselves transported to places out of time where dinosaurs still roam. So stop an evil genius from blowing up the moon. I mean,
yeah, it's weird, and I'm down for it.
I feel
like love to play.
I'm pretty into this.
This is the one that I feel like was the one that I was most interested in, that I didn't drive into the original like Trinium set of books, because it's like when you talk about this with the over-the-topness but yet still sounds fun, that's what it is. I think this is like it's pulp action. It's that over-the-top early 1900s, you know, adventure stuff of, you know, like all those crazy things that they had, and you could go on like crazy like adventures. You could go on like, it's like 1950s like bad monster movies or bad like adventure movies too, like rolled into it. It's a lot of that stuff that we can go back and look at now. Like I can look at bad like horror movies or like monster movies from the 1950s, right around that time period. They could be terrible. They could be entertaining as hell. You know?
They're usually either one, both, or none.
Yeah. I will go to bat for the movie
This
Them.
is really awful.
I love that movie with giant ants. It is
Oh no.
Yeah.
Them just, it's one of those movies I can sit down and watch like again. You know, it's just they had really the ant puppets which didn't really move. You know, they kind of just like they had to just have them like on rails because those things like the head moved. That was it. The head moved.
You did what you could.
A lot of shooting at something off of screen, as then you have, like, partially on screen a head of something coming in. Grr, snarl, I'm attacking you.
I mean, the reason why those are so good is because that just makes me think of, like kids putting on a show, right?
Yeah.
That would be, like, modern-day kids, like theater kids, I guess. I'm not a person like that, right? But that's kind of what I imagine, because I'm a boomer, I guess, where it's like the kids are in the backyard playing and they have like, we made this giant ant puppet, and they're like imagining things, and it's like that was how movies used to be, and I was like, oh man, look how realistic it is, and now we're just like, ooh.
Well, it's like I gotta say, like you're not a boomer because I'm old and I count as a millennial just because I'm on I'm at the low end of it. Like I'm like on the border, and it's like, oh wow, I count
like
as
one of the last years for millennial or something.
Yeah,
I guess they extended it because
I'm one of the early years for it because it's like people born in the 80s would become like, you know, the millennials grow up to become the.
I think like the cutoff now that because you can't really define the cutoff until the next generation is established and shit.
Yeah.
I think like 99 is the cutoff now. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
But there's like Zoomers.
Yeah, and there's that weird,
I don't know.
mix of Zoomers.
Back in my day, grumble, damn kids, lawn, grumble.
But yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
I might back Adventure. I gotta be honest.
I kind of like. I'm really into it.
I mean, let's go, right?
Yeah.
How much does it cost for the PDF?
$25 for the PDF. That includes a discounted print-on-demand option. That's nice. So if you wanted a print-on-demand, you can get it.
Not bad.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good price. Especially if it's like a full-fledged standalone system, right?
Yeah.
I like how it's like all or nothing. This project will only be fun if it reaches this goal. Yeah, no, they're way past that goal.
Yeah.
Like double.
So, anyway. After explosion of Calvin Hammersmith's Telerik engine early in the 20th century, people around the world began to demonstrate extraordinary capabilities. Star-but individuals went strength to pull a safe from a wall, the quickness to hand to pluck a bullet from the air, mesmerists with the ability to cloud men's minds to see visions of distant places. Meh!
Valiant daredevils with unparalleled skill or luck, collectively called the Inspired.
The newly formed Aeon Society for Gentlemen! Meh!
Yes, the gentlemen.
It's like there's a lady over there. Don't mind, she is a lady, but it is the Aeon Society of Gentlemen. Look, we're the 1930s. We don't name things after ladies, even though they might be there. Meh! They really didn't. They really didn't.
No, but I mean, it sounds cool. I like things that are lighthearted, right?
Well, they're the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen because they also had one woman.
Well, I mean, if they were the League of Extraordinarily Gentle People, you'd think that they were more like 50-50 split.
But they... God.
And also, gentle people, I mean, that kind of says, like, oh, well, they're really nice and stuff. It's like, no, these people will kill you. So that sends the wrong message. So,
God,
a gentleman, he could still kill you.
Tune in next week to see our exciting conclusion of these exciting events. Meh! Radio voice. Let's talk a deeper discussion. Adventure Continuum, it's cool. Check it out. Oh, God. Let's talk 4E.
Oh, no.
Let's get into this can of worms that is 4th edition. So, I don't know the full background that you can say for the development of 4th edition D&D. We were talking about this a little last week when we were talking about the evolution of various game systems. You know, how you get outliers sometimes. Most systems evolve pretty naturally. Occasionally you get weird jumps in various directions, but they still feel connected. 4th edition is an incredible outlier that feels barely connected to its previous routes at all. I can go on a short list of things that were different from 3rd edition to 4th edition, just to start out with this conversation as examples. The Healing Surge. You had abilities that, like, during, like, effectively a short rest, or sometimes during combat, you could use this set of healing things that you have called Healing Surges that you usually had one or maybe more of to heal yourself a little bit.
Oh, can I have short rest in the middle of combat for D&D 5e? That'd be just great.
It would be like, rather than a cleric, it would be instead of a cleric healing you, a cleric would allow you to use a short rest or something like that, or your Healing Surge, you know, or something like that. No, I think clerics could actually heal you. I think there's a couple other healer-type classes that really weren't healers that were like, you are allowed to use your Healing Surge. You're like, thank you for allowing me to use my second wind here, good friend. The races and classes were there. The ability scores were there. You know, there were some basics that were there. Other things that weren't there. Level progression. You leveled up from 1 to 30. How about that?
Cool. That's a lot of levels.
It technically had epic built into it.
Yeah, I mean, I've played a lot of level 40 games, and I can tell you, it gets really insane at that level.
We didn't get that far in the campaign we were trying to run. We got about halfway there, so we were pretty high level. I think we were like 12 or 13. Oh boy, getting up on those high levels, getting up towards 30, it gets ridiculous. And I just here's another thing. You had a base class, and then at 10th level and 20th level, you chose another class based on your base class usually. Like if, as a warlock, I'd have a choice of basically like warlock archetypes that I'd take at 10th level, and then other warlock archetypes I'd take at epic level or at 20th level. Like my example for my character, I took the multi-classing feat, and so I was able to take a sorcerer thing instead of a warlock thing, and since we were both charisma based, it was kind of cool. I took like the ice sorcerer as a thing, and I kind of thought it was neat that I was combining my like warlock powers, my fiendish warlock powers. So I was like, I was doing the Carceria, the 8th layer of hell. I think I was like, so I was like, I'm getting my powers from Mephisto, or Mephistopheles.
What, the frozen one?
Yeah.
Isn't that the 8th?
Yeah, 8th layer. Well, that was what my storyline was, because I was a fiendish warlock originally, like fiend pack, and I took like ice sorcerer powers, you know. I agree with Josh. It was an MMO version of D&D.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that before.
Yeah. It was a board game. They introduced like all the powers that you had, all the abilities had, were very like MMO based. Like you'd be clicking on like this has a cooldown, this has its own cooldown, you know.
Back in the day when I was not a boomer, I'm not that old. It honestly feels like I'm a boomer at this point. When I played this, I didn't really. I had only played one session of 4th edition. I wasn't the biggest fan of a lot of it. And I, at the time, was more or less like, what do I gain from this when I could play Pathfinder instead?
It's like
that was my opinion on it.
And 4E, because of its tactical nature, you needed maps. You could not do theater of the mind. You could not. So, like, half of people's powers had push this person here, maneuver this person here. I mean, I'm sorry. You need something to mark down while this tactical movement is going on.
Or you just have a messy whiteboard.
Oh, incredibly messy.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna draw us a box. Now put
Definitely,
yourself in this box.
It could work so much better now that Roll20 exists.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like I've said, I might be willing to someday do 4th edition just because Roll20. That's the only reason that I would do 4th edition nowadays and try it out again, because Roll20 makes it feasible.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested in trying it out. I mean, I wouldn't be like, let's play a year-long campaign. I'd be like, no. That's too much.
Maybe like a session or two.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
short
Like a
adventure.
little short
something.
adventure. Because I am learning too many systems, and my brain doesn't have enough hard drive space.
Fortunately, 4E is still a D20 system, and it makes it pretty simple. You know, the skills are what they are. They have the list of skills there. If you get the pluses from it, I think it's it's like ability modifier plus hot level plus half level. You get to all your skills, and then you get a trained bonus if you are trained in it. So it was a lot like it's kind of different because you get half your level to all the skills. You know, so you're never
It's kind of like what 5e did with
Yeah.
proficiency.
Yeah, and how, like, 5e took it in a different path. Rather than giving you an extra boost, it made it that the DCs were lower, too. So it made it easier that, like, since 15 is a very difficult roll, it made it that your, like, base character could still do this acrobatic thing and be really awesome, you know? And the proficiency bonuses, I think, were just 5. I don't know if they went up. It's hard to remember everything about it because it has been some years since I played 4th edition, and I'd have to break out my old character Chiron, my very, very not totally evil tiefling warlock.
Yes, completely normal human.
I may have
Definitely a
laughed
good
maniacally
character.
like 4 or 5 times, just saying. Don't worry about it.
Maniacal laughing is a sign of benevolence.
Yeah, it's happiness that is not containable.
Yeah.
And every time I cast certain abilities, because I could make them sound really cool, people wanted me to narrate them because I'd have Chains of Lephistus.
I mean, friggin' 4E is fucking anime. It's D&D anime. Is what
God.
it is.
You
It really is.
You have to play it that way. Oh my god, I would love to
Yes,
play D&D.
because the way your powers work is such a friggin' like
You have
I
to, like,
can't remember the name of the.
You have to, like, call them out and stuff. Like I like the idea of, like, the chains of Lephistus, like the chains pop out of nowhere and start wrapping around someone as they're trying to, like, knock them off. You know?
Yeah, it has to be anime inspired.
Oh my god. Oh.
We'll plan it for Sundays. That'll be what you did something on Sundays. What was it?
I got
when
something
you
at, like,
did
Sundays at Tabletop or something.
Yeah. That'll be when you just do random games like, hey, we're gonna play 4E, or
Oh,
hey,
God.
we're gonna play this the adventure thing.
Mhm.
Jeez.
Yeah, all the powers are just ridiculously, like, named. All, like, the things you can do. It's just wonderful. I mean, like, this is what you need to do to make 4th edition fun. And, like, I
I'm
think
gonna play a Clockwork Gnome then.
I think it comes down to the main complaint I ever had about 4th edition. It was too MMO, too board game, not enough, like, built-in RPG stuff. Because I got to admit, 3rd and 3.5 were still bad at having your character have non-combat mechanics, but they occasionally had those. Enough to make it feel like they existed. I fucking had a stupid 3.0 character that at, like, 18th level had, like, a plus 60 to diplomacy because I was a fucking marshal and added my, like, charisma to diplomacy, like, 3 times.
That's too many times.
That's a lot.
And I had, like a 8 bonus, you know, and, like, and I also got all their miscellaneous bonuses and, like, magic items and stuff. So I was like, that character was the one that convinced a demon lord to be good.
Maybe you should just stop being evil.
I
rolled a 60 on my check.
It was like,
Alright, he's no longer evil.
Well, we used, like, the epic DCs, it's like 50 to convince it. I rolled like a 70, and I'm like, well, he's no longer evil. All of a sudden, shimmering light involves him, and Pazuzu, the demon lord of gargoyles, becomes Pazuriel, the dove lord. I must go to the celestial realms now to make up for my past wrongs. Goodbye. We're like, what? Wait, you could help
My
us.
people need me. I must go.
This place is no longer for me. But like,
Oh.
so like, you know, you had stuff that I could have bonuses to diplomacy. I felt like they removed a lot of that, and like, because they made skills like they were with the half level bonus, there wasn't a lot related to skills anymore. They were just kind of there. And you could still use them, but I feel like, especially because we ran through... we were on the 4th adventure out of the series of adventures that they were doing. And honestly speaking, none of them had really good, like, anything role-playing related set in there. They, like, when they had, like, towns and stuff, they were, here are the town statistics. Here is NPC. Enter his name and class level and stuff.
This is the town you are entering. There are 5 NPCs here to talk to. Yes, there are, of course, more, but they are irrelevant to the plot.
Yeah, that's kind of what it did. That's exactly what they were like, and I'm like, wow, this is so mechanical for these towns. So when we have, like, actual, like, development information on these people, it's like, no, you must get to the
No.
adventure.
They are to dispense adventure advice. It's like imagine you're playing like a video game, and like, you know, instead of having the NPCs have like a default like 5 lines where it's like, oh yeah, you know, you don't get to the Cloud District very often, do you? Yeah. And instead he's like, hey, you should go to the Cloud District. I bet you there's a quest for you. And that's the only thing he says, as opposed to having like sassing you. No, he's just like pointing to the next adventure.
The Cloud District is the location you need to go to find out the next adventure. Please go there
I'm
now.
sure you'll be allowed in. You are such a handsome and strong adventurer.
Thank you for coming here.
I personally just want my NPCs to be a quest vending machine, and that's it.
Just go over there and then you'll pull their arm like a slot machine,
Yeah.
and then dispenses a quest.
Oh god, yeah.
I think though, experience in DMing, you can inject that roleplay in there.
Oh,
but
I'm sure you
it
can
does-
inject more. Yeah.
It does sound like this system is not built for that. I mean, like, first of all, D&D has slowly been like turning to be like, hey, people like to roleplay a lot, so let's try and give them more roleplay options.
Like,
Which I think 5th edition is doing a decent job of it, considering the older editions anyway.
oh yeah, here
Um,
I found one of the adventure book that we were playing, the 11th to 13th level book. We were playing King of Troll Hunt Warrens is where we ended up. Okay, there we go. It starts with a bunch of adventuring hooks. Then it includes the town. Okay, I'm going to give you this here. Every location in the town is like a paragraph. That's it.
Nice.
It's like, here is the thing about it. Here are some people.
Is one
Here's
of them a store?
there's a
It's
little
just
bit.
a list of inventory. There's no
It's-
NPC
it's not
name.
that
There's no
bad.
conversation. This is a store. Here are the items he sells you.
It's like how if you're built out of a town that's involved in the plot, a modern day D&D book would probably have how many pages do you think dedicated to that town, or even a Pathfinder book?
I would say between 1 and 2. And if there was items or plot hooks, there'd be an extra page or 2 per those. So like 5 would be like the most, I would think,
And
depending on how long you're in the town.
and let's say like let's say for a very simple visit that's 5. If you have a bunch of
Yeah.
NPCs there, how many do you think that might be involved in your quest or help you out? You think a couple more pages?
I'd say 1 to 2 more pages if there was, because I mean, if you think the 2 NPCs with a decent amount of story, they're gonna take up a page by themselves, right? Especially the more detailed they are. So you could probably squeeze 3 NPCs if they were really, really minor.
Mhm.
If they were more involved, they're probably gonna take at least half a page each.
This town that's involved, which is pretty much like the town you visit in this book, 1 page on the town, 2 pages on NPCs, but that's deceptive. They give the stats of one of them because I guess you can hire them on. Also because they give 2 adventure hooks, and they have a picture on those 2 pages. So picture,
I mean, I'm not even counting picture.
yeah, a picture, 2 adventure hooks, and a stat block for 3 NPCs that are related to the town. And that's it. And again, 2 of the NPCs, the reason that they give the definitions of them is, here are your plot hook people. You will interact with them to gain plot hook. They will have character.
Sounds like poor writing on the adventure side.
And then you go straight into the actual location and all the stuff that's there.
If I would just run something like that, after they expel all of their lines, it would just go back to the top, and they just repeat all of them again and continue.
Again, like, I mean, you could add in a lot yourself, but I feel like one of the things about a pre-made adventure is it's supposed to help you a bit, you know? That's one of those things that I always feel about it. Now, granted, I feel like a homebrew 4th edition game has a much better job when it comes to the role-playing side of things. It has a much heavier disadvantage when it comes to the map style things, because you need great maps that are well-defined. Like,
in this
I raised my hand, and I have a map grader.
Yeah,
So...
in this day and age, it's very easy.
This day and age is better. But, like, if I look back at the 4th edition maps, like, I have to say, like, it impressed me. The first, like, big encounter we had was a room full of kobolds where they had these, I kid you not, Home Alone-style swinging traps with rocks on them instead of paint cans that they could swing down at people. And they were, like, on higher ground, like, set up in the area of, like, these little, like, battlements and things like that. It was, like, there was all these level of, like, not only was it the enemies, the terrain and features were there that were important. And 4th edition does that really, really well. Yeah, we should do that thing I talked about, the 4th edition. What was the first one? Because was it the Slang Stone? Let me see. I think I've got a copy of this book here. Slangstone was Adventure for First Level. There we go.
Oh no.
Well,
man.
Well, as long as there's no undead or ghosts or
all good.
What was the thing? It was a poltergeist.
Oh, this actually might this actually might just be a short adventure of the Slangstone, because it's only 34 pages.
Wow, that's short.
Yeah. I love that they talk about plot themes and hooks. It's like, yeah, they're plot hooks.
Yeah, use them.
Plot.
Oh god, it's very silly. But anyway, I don't know what much else to say at this point in time for when it comes to 4th edition. I think I agree that they were both ahead of their time, and in certain ways, and also made terrible choices. It's sort of like I feel like they made their choices for making it an MMO because they wanted an MMO, or they wanted the MMO market. You know,
I almost feel like they may have maybe kind of needed, because then the mistakes here are probably what contributed to them looking at this, say, okay, this isn't what people want, and let's make 5th edition now and try something very different. So I almost feel like 4th edition was kind of needed, despite everyone being like, oh, it's gross and stupid.
No. I think I have to agree. 4th edition is needed. A lot of the, you can see a lot of what was in 4th edition coming into existence in 5th edition. Things like at-will powers, especially for spellcasters, so that I have, I have an acid spray I can shoot out. I have an Eldritch Blast I can shoot out at will.
Eldritch Blast.
Things that I have to say the Warlock had Eldritch Blast at will back in 3rd edition, because the Warlock in 3rd edition is also kind of
They
ridiculous.
needed it because they were really awful. And actually, no. If I'm remembering correctly, 3.5 Warlock I think is better than the 5e Warlock. But also, it's been a very, very, very long time since I've played a 3.5 Warlock, so I could be totally talking out of my butt.
It was very good, but it wasn't. It was in a weird medium ground that it was things like its Eldritch Blast, and everything affected your Eldritch Blast and made it better. So it's I have Eldritch Spear, I can launch it 1 billion miles away, or I had this thing that also makes my Eldritch Blast sicken you and stuff like that. I
remember it being really fun to play, but it definitely wasn't a full spellcaster. It was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, it was a different kind of thing, and I found them fun to play. they evolved them in an interesting way, I think, over the generations, definitely. But, like, having it that everybody has those. Granted, like, the cleric's little, like... I'm glad that they got rid of a cleric having a healing at will kind of thing, because I remember in 4th edition, the cleric had ability that if they smack someone, they could they successfully hit an opponent, they could also heal an ally. That means you had to hit your opponent, but then you could be like, and heal 5 hit points over there for my holy smite on this dude.
I mean, that sounds really good for a healer to be able to fight and heal at the same time.
Yes, but like they
especially for free. But that's the nature of 4th edition, right?
You
kind of needed that.
You kind of needed that. Like,
yeah.
I liked the healing surges evolving into the short rest. I feel like short rest was a really great idea that 5th edition did, you know, that, like, you could be like, I can recover some of my abilities, you know, and heal up a little bit, and not necessarily using magic to heal up. I could use, like, hit dice and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can blame 4th edition for the way that 5th edition has evolved its dice system, because it has its own unique technical dice system. It's got its own unique scaling, I'd say. Still D20, totally different scaling than any other. I'm glad they went back to the 20th level system. I would like for there to be some kind of, like, epic level rules, because I liked epic level rules, even though you never really used them very often. Sometimes they came up.
I think epic level is fun, but I think I don't know if 5e is ready for that. I think they'd have to write a whole, like, epic level handbook, all like the core book. You know,
yeah,
it's gonna have to be like a 200 to 300 page book.
It's unfortunate that the way they built the system makes epic level very hard to do. Where, like, Pathfinder, freaking 3rd edition, like, was very easy. They're like, here's the epic level handbook. It's you pretty much just get the stuff you had from before.
Yeah, it's just basically the same thing as regular level 1 through 20, but slightly different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are... And Epic and D&D, like 5e, has some stuff you can grant your players for high level. And, I mean, like, even Pathfinder, at least they also put out Mythic Paths. They're like, well, if you want to use Epic level, pretty much sort of adapt the rules from Epic level from 3rd edition. That's what they kind of put it at. You know, they haven't really talked a lot about it. You know, they're like, that's kind of where we're at. You know, or Mythic stuff to make it that up there.
Now, I know we're supposed to be talking about 4e, but you keep bringing up the Mythic stuff. And the Mythic isn't, like, epic levels. It's like a tack on to a current character, right?
Yeah, it kind of is. They did something like that back in 3rd edition with, like... There was, like, legendary characters or something. It was a book that came out in the back end of 3.5, and I actually had the book, and I was like, this is weird. Because...
I've seen a lot of the Mythic stuff come up, and I'm like, wow, this sounds really cool. Like, if you were playing a Mythic Pathfinder game, I mean, I personally, I like the power fantasy of D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Not gonna lie. So, like, playing that kind of campaign, I think, would be interesting. And it's Pathfinder. You can still always challenge the players.
Mm-hmm. Well, oh god, yes. Oh god, I'm sorry. Like some of the things, like you can be Mythic Path 10 and like be like level 20 and still fight things that will probably kick your ass. You know, they have stuff in Pathfinder. You know, they're like, oh hey, this very powerful being from beyond the stars has showed up. Good luck, and you're like,
a spaceship is orbiting the planet. You need to go fight it. Because
like,
that's in the system.
Spaceships technically exist in normal Pathfinder. Cough, cough. Maybe it's because the Pathfinder's version of Atlantis flew off into space and became space warlords or some kind of shit like that.
While space warlocks.
Yeah, normal Galarian's just been sitting there since then.
I believe that's how Carrion Crown is going to end, with a spaceship fight.
Oh, please, just destroy the entire planet and end it all.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot in 4E that was good lessons. Some that definitely were there, and I feel like kind of ignored because they weren't great lessons.
Yeah, it's kind of the weird thing because I mean we've said it before that if D&D 4E came out and they said this isn't Dungeons and Dragons, this is adventure. Something, I'm not good with names, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's published by Wizard, and it's a new like fantasy RPG game, and it didn't have D&D in the title, it probably would have had a lot more traction. But people were just so expected of like D&D, and it's like, this isn't your traditional D&D, and that's kind of where I think the 5e came around, is they had to bring that back, because it's like, oh no, we've made a mistake.
I think they kept the D&D title for marketing, and also because you have like this pre-established stuff, Granted, if you make another fantasy system, you could be like, there's a different fantasy system that also can use these worlds and settings from before. But
I remember when 4e came out, and I was playing on this one server, and there was a lot of hardcore like 3rd edition fans, and all of them were like, the system seems fine, but I hate what they did to the lore. That was the biggest thing I heard the most of, because they destroyed half the lore. Because it's like, oh, well, this is really different, so all these gods are dead, and moving on. And it's like, what? Why? Why would you do this? I didn't really have that much stake in it at the time, but there was a lot of people that did not like that.
Caves and Comrades.
Oh, no.
It's not D&D, it's Caves and Comrades.
Caves and Comrades. There you go.
That's another thing, is like, I didn't deep dive into the 4E lore, so I didn't get a lot of that. But I'm sure, like, that's one of those things that, like, it's like with, I guess, a comparison again, Vampire 5e, and how I like half the lore they've done I like, and the other half I kind of think like they screwed the pooch on it. What they did for that.
Why'd you do this? Don't do that. That's dumb.
Yeah. It's like, why did you do that? That's dumb. This one, okay, I can see that one. Okay, this one I can see that one. And I think like that's what they did. It's like they wanted something different. They wanted to make World of Warcraft the RPG. And maybe they couldn't get World of Warcraft.
Maybe. I mean, that's Blizzard, right?
You
can't just buy Blizzard.
And the fact is, back in that day, I think it probably was a lot more big. That was probably during the days that, think about it, World of Warcraft was much
so
larger.
much sense. That really makes so much sense now.
Yeah, that does.
Oh, I hate that you said that now.
They wanted to make World of Warcraft the RPG, couldn't get the license. Now, granted, I'm speculating. There's probably a lot more in-depth about the story of the origins of how 4th edition D&D came about. And maybe it's an interesting story that would require a massive amount of research and someone to deep dive into this history here and interview a whole bunch of people. That is a documentary not for myself.
Yes, indeed.
I'm not ready. I'm just nerd right now. I'm not making a documentary.
You just complain and talk about tabletop.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Regardless, was it a mistake? I don't know. That's one of those things. Is like, I like to say it was a mistake financially for them, because it might have been. I certainly bought the first couple of books because it was 4th edition. I love D&D. I was interested in what they were doing for it.
And then you played it, and you're like,
And there was
not sure about this.
We invested for a little while, but there definitely was while back in 3rd edition, between our collective group, we bought a shit ton of books up until the end of 3.5. Gotta be honest there. Yeah. Between all of us, a lot of books. 4th edition, we cut off.
Yep.
So...
And that's people that, and that's like not the average, right? This week grumbling about tabletop. Yeah. I mean, we don't have any. We need someone who's like in their 50s or something to be like, oh, I remember back in 1st edition.
Look,
we had to walk uphill.
I have
ways.
I have this deeper discussion topic list, and I have one on here specifically for a week I could get Umber called Exploring Thaco.
Oh, let's go.
Oh boy, that's a thing.
That will make me
which
so
version?
happy.
Oh my!
Isn't there 2 versions of Thaco?
Technically, yes.
Yeah. Good times. I don't even. My brain is not powered enough for this.
I believe Umber has specifically told me that if he ever starts complaining about Pathfinder, to send him a Thaco picture.
Yeah. That's not what it is.
Yeah, it's like.
Anyway, we want to move on to our last thing. I think we're on our last thing.
Yeah, I think we're on our last thing. I think that's enough for 4th edition. We've deep dived into 4th edition a little bit more. Talked about how it's good that it happened. It might not be the best
Yeah.
decision for Wizards, honestly speaking, but the effects that it's had on the RPG landscape, the lingering effects, are mostly good. A lot of the lessons learned in 5th edition, and some of the lessons I would say that were learned in things like Pathfinder 2nd edition, have evolved the
You also
fantasy
have
genre.
to take into the fact of the people that never played 3rd edition or 2nd edition, and their first game was 4th edition.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh man, I love 4th edition, but wow, I really like 5e." And it's like, yeah, because they added the roleplay elements back into the game.
They fixed a lot of the issues that were there. You know,
Yeah.
they made it easier for the roleplay. I think again, like, it's not that 4th edition didn't have it. It's just they didn't.
It didn't promote it as
It
well.
didn't promote as well.
probably.
I don't remember having any powers that promoted role playing. You know, that's something that I could say like my characters in 3rd edition would have even had. Like, I've got this ability that promotes role playing. You know, neat.
Yeah.
But
So how many games have people had this week?
oh,
I had
Oh yeah, let's start with Momo.
2.
mhm.
Tell everyone about your game.
Oh boy, where to start? First off, never play 2 spellcasters in a single session because your brain will just decide to kill itself, and then you'll have a headache for the rest of the night. But yeah, Thursday again. Sadly, Jess was not there, so I played her cleric and also my artificer, which are both a little complicated spellcasters. You got to make important decisions.
Doesn't your artificer also have some kind of like?
Oh yeah, I
Remote
also have
body
this. I
armor?
still have the defender, so the 3rd character I had to play.
Yeah.
But that session was 3 hours of combat against some cultists who then died and then turned into vampires and then died again. It turns out when your artificer is flying, can just shoot fire from her hands. Vampires aren't really a problem. That happened, and then also our rogue is a vampire now, so we're gonna have to deal with the fact that I'm a seraph and there's a vampire in the party.
Oof.
I just set them on fire. Problem solved.
And then Thursday was chaos one shot, courtesy of Lindsay, which was a time, and it also lasted like 6 hours.
Mhm.
Ooh, I'm glad I didn't sign up for that. That is a very long game.
I had fun, but I was like immediately put off by the fact that we had a very new player. It was their first time ever playing. Their turns took a long time. They did things I didn't like. And also we fought vampires in that one shot as well. It's been a very vampire heavy week apparently for me.
Well, that's good that I'm not gonna fight vampires. In
It's a
the
good thing
session
there's
tomorrow, today.
no vampires in any other games.
Mhm.
Just horribly
But
cursed
I played
humans.
I played a Rune Knight, and it was very powerful and very fun. I lit a lot of things on fire with a sword.
Did you also get big?
I did get very big, and I got big. We were like in a cave, and the first time I got big, I like bonked my head on the ceiling. Took a little bit of damage.
But when you got big, did you say Chuck?
No, but I did yeet a halfling across a gap.
That sounds good.
That sounds acceptable.
Was it a free action for you because you were big?
I think so.
Awesome.
I did roleplay it as I shouted yeet in orc as I threw the halfling.
Mm.
I didn't know the orc had a word for you.
Yeet is actually an orcish word.
Mhm.
Apparently,
okay.
according to Lindsay.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. I can see it.
Well, that was my week.
How about you, Lightning?
Well, let's see. We didn't have Carrying Crown.
Mm-mm.
The game that comes after Carrying Crown, which I don't remember the name of, it's just modern D&D. I don't think it's ever had an actual title. We didn't have that either. But I did talk about a game that's happening. But I don't think I can talk about the things we talked about because you have to find it out when the game starts. I'm not quite sure when the game is starting. One day we'll have that game. And then next month, next Friday, is the first session of our totally normal, not terrible world that Momo is running.
Everyone's a normal human. No
Yeah.
one's weird.
Yeah, it's a perfectly beautiful fantasy world. There's no problems at all.
Yep.
And we're probably a evil party, so we have to make all the
Yeah.
problems.
You'll
It's too
probably
nice. We gotta
you'll
ruin things.
do a better job being evil than all of us on Monday.
See,
You were not very evil in that game.
you were not very evil.
I joined in because I went back and like rewatched the first session of records. I joined in, and I just straight up said, "Yeah, I'm like a spy and I kill people." And like two people were like, "Well, that's a little too evil. Tone it down there."
Said the people trying to summon the devil.
Yeah.
Killing people.
We're just gonna peacefully
Whoa.
summon the devil into this world so he can take it over. He's not gonna murder anyone at all.
And then like 5 sessions later, a child was stabbed.
That's fine. He was an evil detective. He had it coming.
Look, I'm not going to defend that anymore. For me, the game that both of you forgot because it's technically on Saturdays is Lightning's
Yes.
game,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, I was gonna mention it after you went through your game.
yeah, which was the amazing adventures of let's go find these stupid necklaces that we disposed of in the worst possible way. We left the NPC we paid the least amount of money to dispose of them.
Yes, that was the thing that happened.
Chucked them in the ocean. Crabs started eating them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want the DM's perspective, because that's the game I'm running. Someone's messaged our group chat too. Speaking of, the dwarf was given the necklaces because it goes back a couple sessions ago, where Kelmer, who was played by Joe, who is more intelligent than you'd think, half orc, which are not technically half orcs in my world, but that's just kind of what they get known by. He went and he gathered up all of these evil cultist necklaces, and so I'm like, hey, let's find out if something happens. And I think I rolled like a D100. I got like over a 75, so I'm like, I don't know, you take some psychic damage because there's some weird cult things going on. So Kelmer's like, ow, these hurt brain. And then he gave them to the dwarf. So I'm like, all right, I'll have the dwarf roll a will save or something. He passed. So he's like, whatever, they're fine. But, then he had horrible nightmares because they're like evil cultist artifacts or something. So then when you guys got back, you showed him to Mirai, who is the head of the Adventurers Guild. And she's like, I don't need these. We send scouts out to make sure you do the job. And then, if we realize you didn't do the job, then you don't get any more jobs. So then she's like, I don't know, get rid of them. And so the dwarf still had them. And so the dwarf was like, oh, well, fish people, just throw them in the ocean because they're at a port city. So he just throws them into the ocean. And then, like, crabs are like, dead bones and things. And they got into the bag and, like, took them. Some of them washed up. And, yeah, I mean, we got rid of them.
Yeah.
Technically correct.
We've disposed of a few more of them again because there's.
Well, no, you haven't disposed of anything. You just have some.
That's right. We haven't figured out what we're doing.
Remember you threatening a shopkeeper to get one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
it's a good thing that
I didn't roll very well.
Roland. Yeah, you. First of all, you were like, I don't want to pay this price for this item.
It's
So
too
you,
I'm
like,
like-
couldn't negotiate.
I'm like, you just. Well, it was like the obvious of like, wait a second. I know how much that person said they paid.
Yeah.
You were paid.
You know,
Yeah.
but the shopkeeper didn't know that, so he's like, this is what it's worth for me. And you're like, I don't want to pay that much. You rolled really bad on a persuasion thing. And then he's like, all right, I'll lower it a little bit because, you're part of the Adventurers Guild. And then you're like, I don't like that price. And then you threatened the man. And so he's like, fine, okay, have him for this price. And you're like, by the way, after I threatened you, please let me know if you get any more of these things in the shop. And he's like, yes, sure, I'll do that. And
He's
then
not
Marty
gonna do
leaves and is like, I don't think he's going to tell me if they get any more.
Look, I rolled very badly a couple of times.
It was, you had like a 12 and then like an 11 for persuasion and then intimidate. It was not great.
Hi, Damien.
And then you rolled 2 nat 20s in a row. 1 point.
There was also Kelmer jumped into the ocean and swam around. That's where he found the bag. Brain. Umber joined us again with his character, who is like the only arcane spellcaster, and because they had not seen the book yet, it's like, check out this wet book, and then it's like, I can't read it, and then so they went and did some stuff, and that didn't help. And so it's like, I'll just keep the book because I don't trust the weird skull mask man. He's weird and drank my bathwater.
Inaccurate description.
Also, we're like, are these magical? And he's like, I don't know. And we're like, but
Yeah.
you're the arcane caster. You know these things.
Yeah, we don't know anything about magic. Meanwhile, the 10 or 12 intelligence non-proficiency arcana or whatever. I mean, I think Umber rolled bad as well for the arcana checks.
Oh,
It's like, it's
no.
a book.
Humber and I didn't roll above like a 10 that entire
It was
session.
so bad. It was like, I feel so bad when you guys roll low, and I'm like, well, this is what you learn.
Hey,
It doesn't help. I'm sorry.
you learn that the book is wet.
Yep.
Then on Sunday, I had my elephant game where I'm a Loxodon, in which we got on a boat to go to this island for our adventure, and then the boat was destroyed because evil storm magic was used on it.
Oh.
Because apparently lightning bolts hit it, and the lightning bolts caused the wood to rot away.
Well, that's weird.
How do you go murder a storm god?
And they may have targeted the side of the boat right at the edge where the water was, so water started coming rushing into the waves.
That's not very nice.
Also, one of our characters was asleep through 97% of that. It's like sleeping as like it's like keep checking to see if you wake up when the things are going. It's like you have advantage. Nope. You still have advantage. Nope. There's like water rushing in below your cot. Nope. And the other characters, like, one of the other characters was there, like, I'm gonna wake them. Oh, you're finally awake!
Heavy sleeper.
But the thing is, funnily enough, it was the Warforged that was a heavy sleeper. And they're not supposed to normally sleep. We're like, why are you sleeping? You're a robot man.
Didn't want to deal with it.
They just turn themselves into sleep mode.
Oh, so it was hilarious. Yeah, so we just washed up on shore. So that's fun. Monday, we didn't have records because really it's because Jinx had jury duty. So, yep. Then I had Pathfinder 2nd Edition, where we finished some management of our stupid keep, where apparently hiring someone to watch after the keep is the most lucrative goddamn job in the world. Because we were supposed to like pay them like in a system that's more silver-based than gold-based, because that's what they switched in Pathfinder 2e. They made it a little bit more silver-based than gold-based. Good on them. When, like, an administrator to, like, oversee the job is paid, like, 2 gold a day, I'm like, God damn, you're paid a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Oh my.
I think it was even more than that.
That is more money than you pay an adventurer to go into a deadly, deadly room.
Oh, fuck, that's right. It was, like, it was even worse. It was, like, maybe, like, 10 gold a day or something ridiculous like that. We were like...
Oh, no!
We were
That's
like,
too much gold.
they were like, this is so expensive. My God, this is like terrible investment. We're like trying to repair things and like make the checks ourselves, and we're like, well, none of us are good at like overseeing the place and like keeping like the business running of it, mainly because I have a decent skill for that, but I kept rolling 3s and 4s.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah, so I'm like. My excuse was, I'm a lizard folk. I don't understand your crazy mammalian ways of, like, administration.
That's how you negotiate a bad roll. If this was the lizard way, I'd know exactly what to do.
That's my joke. What's this paperwork? I have to sign things? What's this going on here? Anyway. So, yeah. And then we went through a mystical portal to... an entire the Mwangi Expanse, where we found jungle elves who were guarding the gateway that we used because evil cultists had just activated and we murdered them on the other side. So now we're...
Did you eat them?
There was talk of that from one of our characters. I think I stopped them because, again, I'm the dad of the party and have to keep stopping everybody from doing stupid stuff.
I don't know. There's nothing wrong with eating a nice, good forest elf.
I
suggested
eating the giant spiders that we'd fought previously.
Listen,
That,
there are
no.
starving children in Ustalov that would love that corpse right there, okay?
I mean, there's a giant
Please,
dead
sir,
spider
how
in
can we
a-
have some more man?
the giant dead spider in a certain what is it? Lodging resort?
Yeah, it's
Resort?
really big too.
Yeah.
It's massive.
I mean, you can cook that thing and eat for weeks.
No. I mean, weirdling licking the blood was about as far as I would go, and that was mostly just for meme.
Mm-hmm. But we made friends with them, and now we're gonna go hunt cultists. Probably. I don't know. Tuesday
You
had
need to
like
pay for that person to watch over your keep.
Tuesdays had Legacies of Kain, which they figured out where to go. That they're going to Kenya, and they went to Kenya.
And they're gonna be as fast as Kenya.
Yes, there was the power first joke in there, of course.
Yeah, it's an old one, but it's a good one.
Yes. That's pretty much like what Legacies of Kain is, figuring that out, and I'm like, I think I was.
Didn't they also get a bunch of downtime?
They did get some downtime because it was supposed to be like skipping ahead to post when the U.S. basically stopped its main lockdown, and we've never been locked down very much since then because we're the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, you really need to just be like, hey, guess what? A vampire releases a cure for COVID. Boom.
I really should
problem
do that.
over.
That might be where the cure comes at the end of the year. You don't know.
Yeah, it's vampires. They're like, we're tired of this. This makes the blood taste awful. Get our vampire scientists on this shit. They've got 10,000 years of research because they're vampires or whatever.
No. You just they just do all the investments, and anybody that resists, scientist, you were working on a different vaccine. Now you will work on the COVID vaccine. Blah blah blah. Yes, master, I will work on the COVID vaccine.
Oh, they're just making them ghouls. I don't know why, but I'm compelled to serve you. I will do what you command.
For some reason, I have this urge to work on a vaccine for an entirely different virus that I have no study in. I guess I can go help out. I might know something that can assist.
Every major leader of like scientific study becomes a ghoul under a vampire, and they are all put onto the COVID project.
So that was that.
It's a vampire.
Then we didn't have Star Trek. We didn't have Carrion Crown. I had Children of Wrath. Then I think that's the last game I had.
You did, and some stuff happened.
Stuff happened. They did some stuff in the building, and then they had a nice skeleton wedding. Skeleton v Mermaid wedding. That, afterwards, when everybody got drunk, the groom decided to spike everybody by giving them the tarnish alcohol plus love potion in cocktail form to cut it away a little bit. So everybody got horny and really drunk.
Ooh.
And then things went bad when Carrie tried to go off and sleep with a witch. And then Maxwell and Kaz followed, and it was solved by this is what says it. Maxwell decided in his infinite wisdom to solve the problem like this: polymorph Carrie into a dog, carry said dog out back to her room, and then modify her memory to forget that she had been a dog at all, and just think that he'd somehow convinced her to go back to her room.
Yeah.
It was a thing.
What a turn of events.
As I said, it's not a great idea. He probably made it not as bad with the... His modify memory was a terrible idea on top of the terrible idea of the polymorph. But at least he made...
If that witch ever learns...
Well, the witch knows that she was
happened...
a dog. They all know that the witch was right there. Ooh. The witch is trapped in that cabin.
The witch saw the polymorph. The modify memory came later.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
That'll have no negative repercussions.
Well, the goblin has already gone up to Maxwell and being like, you really, really have to tell the truth before she goes talk to the witch. You really have to sit her down and talk to her seriously before this gets worse.
I mean, this is my opinion, right? But Carrion or whatever. I'm thinking Carrion Crown.
Yeah.
Anyway, They're played by Mads, and I like Mads. They have like some really interesting.
Uh-oh. Did I pump out, or did everybody else?
The character they are playing, Carrie. Did we lose something?
We lost you for a second
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the screen buffer.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mads, who's playing Carrie, if I was in that adventuring group, I'd probably be just like, whatever. You're gonna go and do crazy things. You're gonna get yourself killed doing crazy things. It's not my problem anymore. That's kind of where I would be at character-wise, based off what I've seen in the game. It's just like, you're gonna be dumb and stupid, and you're eventually gonna learn your consequences, right? But I don't know. Fantasy, you're the DM. I don't know how you would do that, but that's how I would see it as a player. Is like, you keep doing stupid things, and eventually you will have consequences for your stupidity.
I mean, she's already had consequences, to be honest. Like, she's already been punished for stuff. It's the thing is that she keeps doing it, and like even this one, there would have been consequences to going there. I just don't think it was going to be as bad a consequences as, let's say, Fish's character Kaz was worried about, or Maxwell was worried about.
Sure.
The fact is, at most, in a drunken, inebriated sex time with the witch, she probably would have freed her.
And the witch is probably super evil.
Technically evil. She was kind of an evil fae from Lorwyn who's been corrupted by the forced transition to another plane and driven slightly mad, who has a kind of hatred for everything else that's living to a degree, whose plans were to go to some weird corner of the world, kidnap people, and use basically their skin to rebuild her own flesh and turn her back into something akin to normal.
Yeah, see? Kind of evil.
Kind of evil.
It's a little evil.
Yeah, I mean, she's an evil fae. She's like, she lost her fairy wings, she was a greater fae. She's just a little, like, vengeful and can't get back home, and also is in a realm that's completely different than hers that probably has a very different feeling. Like, there's a lot of it that's like, you went through some shit. You probably weren't a great person to begin with. It's made you worse.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of hard to like judge things from the outside, right? You don't know if there's any deeper meanings to things.
Mm-hmm.
But there are games that I watch that sometimes it feels like the players just decide to do something because, like, oh, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's a game, and they don't feel like let's say this is an example I love to use. Let's say if there's like this evil god or whatever, and you're like, oh, boy, it'd be hilarious if I released this, and because like it doesn't matter, because it's like, well, just play it in a different game or a different setting, or I'll have a different character, and so you release the evil god, and the evil god destroys the world, and then that campaign and setting is over, right? You as the player, it's not real. So it doesn't mean anything, but it should mean something to the person, because that person lives in this world. So unless you're playing a suicidal person, which I'll be honest with, that's not a great thing. But I mean, I understand some people are like that, right? It's just sometimes that's how it is. But I always feel like your character should be invested into the world because it's their world. So, I mean, it's hard to judge, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I feel like what you described there is unfortunately a little bit of Mads and 95% of her characters to a T. I feel like, and I don't feel like any of the actions that she or Lindsay, because they're the ones that usually do stupid plans, or even some of the stupid plans that some of the other characters have done by accident, are really pushed on purpose. Like, that's the thing that I feel like sometimes can be explained a little bit. Like, everything that Carrie did with that witch, none of it felt forced by Mads, I gotta say.
Yeah.
From the original. Like, oh, I met this weird witch thing. She offered me this potion. She made an insight and was, like, pretty trusting of her. She's like, you know what? I'm going to try it. She seems pretty trustworthy. She drunk it. She got an effect that she liked, because she could talk to plants and animals for a short period of time. you know. And so she's like, oh, this witch lady's really cool, and I'm really sad for her being trapped there. I'm going to go spend time with her. Oh, I can learn stuff from you. That would be awesome. You know? Yeah. This is the logical thing. And then, like, getting drunk and being, like, have her on her mind. You're like, you know, I don't know about the sleeping with her, but, like, kind of go check her out and being, like, you know, like, really, like, you know, on top of her, trying to be, like, you know, helping her out, being nice to her or something. That's the first thing that was on Carrie's mind at that point in time. Okay. Maybe more would have happened there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's
But
like...
I mean, I've seen things where it really feels like the players they're not invested in their characters and thus also the world that they're in. And that always makes me sad.
The non-investment of a character, I think, is a problem. That's like what I call like which I've had people that are like that. Like it's the disposable characters.
Yeah.
Which, again, a disposable character is not something that you necessarily have to have as a problem. A disposable character is something that, like, especially there are certain systems where you're more likely to die.
Oh yeah, like Call of Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm. Call of Cthulhu, Dungeon Crawl Classic. That's another one where these are very brutal systems. It's very easy to die. The chances of you losing a character exist. So you have to have your character to a level be disposable. Meaning that whatever your backstory is, whatever your connection is, you have to be ready for them to die. In other systems, you still have to have that. Characters can die. Period. Like, if one of these people's characters die, I could handle it. That's one of those things that I've written for the story that I know there's stuff I could still do. Like, without Kaz, it would require me to do a little bit of hoop going, but it's not impossible. Especially because I've set up something like the goddamn golem. Like, if Kaz died now, you know who would take up the role of rebuilding the frickin' ship? The golem.
The golem.
Probably Radiant would help because she's technically an artificer, even though she's an alchemist-type artificer. She knows some things. The two of them would rebuild the thing. If Carrie died, you know, I could use Radiant as a push in the same direction towards Urborg that they would need. Like, it's like, those are the two characters I feel I would hurt the most from being passing away right now. But I could handle it. And that's the thing. Yep. You know, you have to be ready to handle character death, because if it happens, it happens. I don't shy away from it. I don't have a lot of combats in that. That's good for them, because they have less chance of dying. But if it happens...
Did they also fight some big, nasty thing?
Oh, yeah, because someone came and stole their stuff while they were drunk.
Yeah.
You know, as I said,
I
like...
remember there was some fight of some kind.
It's the idea of what they didn't realize of, like, oh yeah, by those ways, those arcane locked doors, also there was maybe perhaps some magic on that kept people from looking in that room, and then you opened it up and are like, oh hey, these things exist now, and you really couldn't rebuild that magic the same way, so people knew about the things when you opened all those doors. Cough, cough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because it was like, it was Maxwell and Kaz, and then later, kind of, sort of, Ooze Monster Joe. I can't remember his character.
Claude. He's an Ooze Monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, the most monstrous thing in the entire group is technically Claude.
Yep.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I mean, it's a very monster group, really. I mean, you have a skeleton, a horrible abomination ooze monster, a goblin, now a demon, and then,
just a Wintress.
Yeah, which is just like a human thing?
Core, which are basically white-skinned humanoids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the only difference between them... Well, she's also just weird.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a very monster party.
Yeah. Like, Wintress is a monster in her own different way. In her, in her own unique special flower way. As she has, like, goat head helmet that she has, and she's wearing, like, a skimpy, sexy skunk outfit, like, 95% of the time. Yeah, I think she just stayed in that outfit with, like, the goat helmet she's got instead, you know? And she's just like, I'm like, that is a weird outfit for you to have on. Like,
There's also a mermaid.
Yeah.
And an angel.
Have you seen the artwork that I've got for Latula? She's a deep sea mermaid. She is monster looking.
don't think I have. Why don't you share that in our lovely message here?
I'll share it. So I'll mess with the pictures here for a second just to show it for everybody. Oh, perfect. As in Children of Wrath. Where is it?
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
some stuff is happening.
There she is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
that's a thing.
Mhm.
That's definitely a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Really, what it
not,
is
not what I was expecting.
really what the storyline is that she's technically descended from Wrath too, as a rootwater merfolk, which are very savage, monstery merfolk, was in her descendants. You know, one of the merfolk that came over from Wrath, and they got monstery because the place they lived in was a place where a forest grew over basically the water that they lived in, so there was no light where they lived, and they got all murdery and monstery. Anyway, so yeah, that's where it comes from.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a thing.
Yeah. And now the skeleton is married to that.
Congrats.
Yeah, I mean,
Congrats
that makes
to-
sense. Why,
Congrats to the happy couple.
that makes sense why the mermaid monster is okay with marrying a skeleton
It's
monster.
going to be hilarious when he uses Nim's gift.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
if anybody realized what I gave them.
Oh, it's gonna be awful. Is he gonna turn into a skeleton mermaid?
No.
Oh, boy.
The gift was technically something that was created by a wizard that was meant to combine two creatures together into one.
Oh no!
Uh-huh.
Oh.
But, like, you know, like, it would be... But it was supposed to be like, you know, like, if you wanted to create an owlbear, you'd get an owl and a bear and give a ring to each of them and then activate it. And
So
then...
it's Wonder Twins, or no?
Well, they
it's,
wouldn't-
it's Fusion Dance.
They wouldn't fuse together. It was technically
no,
supposed
it's Fusion Dance.
It was technically
'cause it's
speaking, one
temporary.
would still give birth to the other. You know?
Oh no!
So, Maxwell might become a father through weird magic means, and I have no idea what the fuck that's gonna do.
Well, what is Maxwell's regular base of?
Human.
What are his skeleton bones of?
He's a human
Are they
skeleton. Yeah.
So you'd have a half mermaid monster.
Yeah. Half mermaid. I guess I don't know if the undead would translate at all. It might kind of be a
I
little
don't think
dampier.
it would.
It might be a little dampier.
There you go. It's a dampier mermaid. So it's got like
Perfect.
a less monstrous upper half, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and then fangs to non-people.
It might
So
have
it's still
might
kind
have
of a monster.
legs. You know, might have legs. I don't know.
No, not allowed to have legs. Still has to be a mermaid monster. I mean, it's being birthed of a mermaid parent.
Well, the
so-
mermaid monster also has like a warlock power to change her fin into feet specifically.
Yeah, but I mean, they could pass that magical ability on, right?
Yeah, you never know. I don't know. We'll have to find out. That will be exciting,
So
and depends
cursed.
on whether they do that.
It's just so cursed.
Uh-huh. I mean, like, it's the appropriate gift for a couple that are like, you're not compatible in any way. What? I guess he didn't say if you want to start a family. Because he's talked to Maxwell. I think Maxwell would love to get family back is the thing. So that's why he assumed that it would be a great thing for Maxwell.
You just forgot to send him the fine print. Like, oh, right. Maybe he'll get a letter saying, oops, I forgot about this.
No.
Um,
He's gonna maybe remember to use it sometime. I love how I had the giant Kraken give him a whale on the ocean. Like the Kraken is attending the wedding. It's just like thump, whale on the beach. That Kraken is one of my favorite NPCs that's not gonna join their party.
I mean, isn't it huge?
It is colossal. It's
monstrous size.
It is an actual Kraken that's like massive size. It's like small keep sized, you know. It is.
So what you're saying is the party could build a house on it.
I mean, I don't know if the Kraken Wizard would let you build a house on it. It'd be horrible for its back.
Well, you have magical house, mithril house.
I
so
mean,
it doesn't wait.
Slither Cardinal Kink was the great was the wingman for Cass for when Cass was
Yeah.
trying to pick up a date.
Yeah, That was the thing that happened too.
Oh. So a lot of interesting thing happens in that show, and they will continue to happen because we had Skeleton Wedding. Anyway, I think that's good for today. We went a little longer because we got stuck up on Skeleton Wedding and other stuff.
It's a good thing to be stuck on.
There was a lot of the tabletop thing, like what we did in tabletop. Even though a lot of the games were missed, like I missed 75% of the games I'm in.
Yeah, I think I missed 3 of the games, but I'm in a lot of games now. I gotta say, like, now granted, my Luxodon game is currently every other week, and we're talking about at some point switching to weekly, but like, there's some scheduling that's preventing that for now. But that would be like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games I will be involved in.
I'm currently in 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
I am only in 3 right now. Next month it'll be 4. Actually, no. I keep forgetting about my Star Wars game because it is so infrequent that I forget that I'm even in it.
Mm-hmm.
I may be having that tomorrow. I don't know. The DM is like, I need to write more. I'm like, dude, you were giving us downtime. You don't need to write anything for downtime unless we're gonna interact with people. So it's just kind of like, dude, just give us some downtime. We'll talk about things we might want to do. It maybe we only play for a couple hours, but then we're done, and then you can focus on more story. Yeah, I mean, there's the Star Wars game, so that's technically 4, and then next month will be 5, and then possibly another game in a couple months.
I mean, for me, I've got like a couple of games that I'm working on. I just have to build the player base for them and figure out, you know, when we're doing it and like what's on and off stream.
Cowboys.
Pirates,
Cowboy game?
Pirates, Cowboys, the Parasite Eve one I've been talking about that we were working with that like Lee would jump on board with. He loves that game.
Yeah. A short 4E game.
Short 4E game we did talk about, and the replacement for Legacies of Kain, which is the only of my ending games that I've talked about a replacement for right now. So,
yeah. But a lot of those are going to be shorter games, to be fair.
Oh yeah, no.
At least 2 of them.
Cowboys would be shorter.
Before you would be short.
Before you would be short. I might run the Parasite Eve one a little bit more like episodically kind of thing, so there could be like switches between stuff. You know, I might run
That's a good way of rotating cast as well.
Yeah, I might run it like, you know, not like I would say like a short campaign, you know,
so a couple months.
Yeah, a couple months. That would be like, it's one of the video games, you know. Oh, now we're going to like the second video game, you know, in the series, and it's an entirely different story, different cast kind of things that's related, same world, and kind of stuff like that, you know, or different cast.
You have an what is it? You think about like the cop anime, right? Where it's like, all right, the case just came in. We need you to investigate this, and then that's what the story is, right? There could be a little bit of side jobs and stuff. Mm-hmm. I may have been reading a whole bunch of webcomic about a weird cop world recently. But look, like, you can have it where like this is the case, right?
If you want weird cop anime, I got one to suggest to you that I really enjoyed, which was Copcraft, because it's modern day world, except portal to a fantasy world opens up, and so in this like city where they mix, it's basically like elven magician lady teaming up with a cop to, like, you know, because it's like one of the cities where like a lot of people mix together to fight crimes, and it's kind of ridiculous, and I love it. It's reverse isekai, which, you know,
that's great.
Mm-hmm. Also the cop drama kind of anime. But anyway, lots of games. When I know more, I'll announce more in the future. But for now, I'm going to head off. I will probably stream something some point tomorrow. 95% sure I am. I was going to stream this morning, but like I was thinking of starting at 11, but then like I was working on some stuff and it got to be 11:30, and I'm like, I wanted to do like at least 2 hours. So I'm just going to wait until next time. You know, I got busy. I was doing things like uploading to YouTube and stuff. So I'm trying to make sure to have at least a decent schedule for certain things. So someday my YouTube/Twitch schedules will both stabilize, and I will have an actual like businessy schedule.
Yes, business stuff. Business stuff. Business.
I mean, this is the closest thing I have to a business right now. Anyway, do you folks want to give a shout out to places, find, etc., etc., etc.?
Go watch on 21. He's a cool dude, and he needs love and support. And also, you're in a Star Trek game with him.
Yeah, Tuesdays, 8:15, 8:30 around there. I can't remember which one we start at. Like Records is now, or like sorry, Legacies is now. Goddamn it. Children's starting at 8:30 now. I gotta remember that because Joe's work schedule switched, so we're starting a little later. Anyway, Momo, you got anything?
Not really.
Okay. RPG games, Records, Mondays, like 2-ish, give or take, just when we get everybody gets. That's the aim. Just because there's been issues with things like, Jinx's schedule and Jess's schedule, we're a little...
Jess might be back next week.
Yeah.
She has become properly medicated.
She's sleeping.
And sleeping. Tuesdays, 2 p.m. On the dot for Legacies of Kain, 8:30 for Children of Wrath, and that's on the Stream RPGs. And this show, 2 p.m. every Saturday if you want to join for it. But anyway, for now, I'm going to pop off. I think these folks are going to pop off. We're going to go on adventures in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I gotta eat
You're not
food.
going to fight any giant monsters.
I've got to go see if I can get to this. Like, I got to get to the store at some point. Maybe I can do that tomorrow. I don't know. I'll figure that out. And I'm off for now, though. So, I at least have to get dinner for myself. Anyway, bye. Farewell.